the TBN, that is Transformational Business Network Africa, and the Business Partner International. So allow us to kindly have a quick word from the collaborators, and then we could begin the event. If the TBN team is ready, kindly you could go on. Please unmute.
Okay. Oh, sorry. The host had to unmute me. Apologies for that. Thank you very much, Anne, for the time to speak about TBN. And again, I'd like to apologize on behalf of TBN for the technical hitch that we experienced an hour ago. We're really sorry about that. So I'll briefly speak about TBN. TBN Africa was launched at the beginning of 2017. We are an impact-led global movement that supports both early and growth stage entrepreneurs to build profitable and bankable businesses and be investor ready. As TBN, we've made remarkable progress towards supporting entrepreneurs on their journey through our Scale for Success program and various partnerships locally and internationally. This includes 𝐁𝐿 Global Communities, Invest in Africa, International Trade Center, Africa Guarantee Fund, Uganda Medical Association, Enterprise Uganda, and most recently, the AFAWA initiative from the African Development Bank. This is a Pan-African initiative to bridge a 42 million financing gap facing women in Africa. So we have our Zahara flagship program for the women. So the program prepares the women to scale through expert training, investor readiness, potential investment from our network of investors, as well as exposure to a network of like-minded entrepreneurs. It's a 6-month program where we take you through different aspects of business, your identity as an entrepreneur, your identity as a business, the operations of your business, the resources needed for your business, the implementation of what you've learned in the 6 months, and then we take you to the investor readiness. We introduce you to banks, we introduce you to investors. So we are very glad that you're here and look forward to learning more. I don't like to take a lot of time. And thank you very much. That's much about TBN. During the Q&A, we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. Thank you, Anne.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Melanie. Thank you for putting across what TBN does. We'll kindly now move on to Mike, who will give us a brief around Business Partner International.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome aboard this particular meeting. The intention is really to make sure that we hear what women entrepreneurs have gone through. Business Partners is a risk financier. We've been in Kenya for the last 16 years, and we do lendings between 10 million and 100 million. We do not have any restriction. We cover basically every kind of enterprise in terms of funding. And we provide funding for expansion. We provide funding for asset finance. We provide funding for property finance for commercial purposes, and even for basically for literally everything that an entrepreneur would require. What is the unique proposition that Business Partners has in this market is that besides funding, we're also able to offer technical assistance, which enables an entrepreneur to be able to address the soft issues that makes a big difference in their business. And that's part of our partnerships with people with like TBN, where we make sure that such issues are addressed and make sure that the entrepreneur is successful. Because of time, I will not go into a lot of details because the day-to-day was really meant for us to hear how are women entrepreneurs doing their business. And one of the things that we pride ourselves in as business partners is that we actually dedicate 40% of our funding to the women. So I don't want to take the thunder from the women. I want to let them talk to us and share their experience. So, and back to you. And in case of any questions regarding Business Partners, I'll be happy to take them at the end of the session.
Thank you, Michael. And we do appreciate for the brief in terms of what Business Partner does and more so the focus that they have on women. If you may allow me, I understand that we have the TBN director on call, so kindly we could also give him a few minutes. Is the TBN director on call?
Yes, he's there.
Okay.
I was trying to hide, but I've been found out. Good morning, everyone. My connection is really bad, so I'll not turn on the video lest I am dropped. It's really good to just to be on the call and just to see what is happening with the entrepreneur ecosystem and just to say thank you so much to our partners at BPI and to all the entrepreneurs. I think together we're the solution for Africa, really. The governments have failed, and I think it's business that has a chance to bring change. So initiatives like these are really exciting because they remind us that there's power in going together. So thank you so much, and let's have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. Indeed, we are going to have a great day. But before we break for the day, we are going to have great discussions with these amazing women and business owners who have logged in. So thank you, the collaborators and the partners for the event. Thank you for creating this. We'll quickly step into the agenda of the day. And it is said that the world is experiencing a level of disruption, that a lot of businesses are at risk. Businesses are at risk of either freezing out, failing, closing, but also there's a good story. There are others who are just about to innovate, advance, and even so, they're about to thrive. The difference is called resilience. And we say in a popular Chinese proverb that when the wind of change blows, there's some people who build walls, but there are also others who build windmills. Dear business owners, today we are joined by a panelist of women who have built some amazing windmills, and they have made opportunity out of all those disruptions. So allow me to introduce my panel. I'll quickly introduce them. On the list, we have Linda Ihuthia. Linda is the founder of Catapult Natural, the first interscaping company in East Africa, providing services to the World Bank, Google, the BBC, Microsoft, to name but a few. She recently founded Catapult Africa, which is a consulting firm focusing on ESG and impact investment, following the expert certification from the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management. That is Linda. On the list also, the panelist list, we have Carol Ofafa, who is not stranger. Carol is the CEO and founder of eSafari, a green tech startup that is developing charging infrastructure for electric 2- and 3-wheelers. The company aims to transform the lives of women through transformation to sustainable transport. We also have on the panel, that is Nyawera Kibuka. Nyawera is a HR and change management consultant with over 19 years of experience. This she has gained in the professional services like the PricewaterhouseCoopers Kenya, the KPMG Kenya, and is now the founding director of Cedar Africa Group, which is a 10-year-old regional boutique firm that provides leadership, talent, and change management solution. So indeed, we have a group of very successful women entrepreneurs, accomplished, and have made a name for themselves in the various industries that they represent. So to begin us off, I would like us to put a learning cap. Let's enjoy ourselves. As we do that, kindly remember, if you have any question, please put them forward. We'll have a Q&A session where we're going to interact with the ladies and also even ask them very personalized questions to help us build our own businesses. Let's begin. And it's always amazing just to understand who is on the panel and just to understand the story behind them becoming entrepreneurs. So in just less than 1 minute, would kindly like to know what motivated you women to begin business? And I'll begin with Nyawera. What was your reason behind running your enterprise?
Thank you, Anne. I just want to confirm you can hear me clearly.
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Okay, great. Good morning, fellow entrepreneurs. It's a pleasure to be on the call this morning. My journey, I was going to say, is a bit uneventful in that I left employment 10 years ago wanting to go into self-employment, not entrepreneurship, because I quickly learned that there's a difference between the two. And the desire at the time was just flexibility and autonomy, wanting to spend time with my young children. But as fate would have it, my former bosses called on me to deliver some assignments for them. And in my head, I said, I'm only going to deliver one, and I'm not going to do any more. One led to two, two led to three. A year later, I had an office and employees. And 10 years later, Cedar Africa Group is now a regional business. So I like to say, I think I stumbled into this world of entrepreneurship. It wasn't by design, but isn't that the way life goes? Somehow things just evolve over time. So thank you, Anne, for the opening remarks.
Lovely, lovely. Nyawera says it as it is. She just stumbled by and not by design, and she loves what she's doing. So we have Linda. Linda, would you take us through what motivated you to start in the enterprise?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Anne, for that, and also all the facilitators. I think today, even this session has shown resilience because we had such a attack, but yet we have been able to press on, which I think is also in the spirit of also what entrepreneurship is. You don't know the challenges you're going to face. So for me, I have always intentionally, from the time I was in school, loved to do business. I was one of those children who in school found a gap. What can I sell? How can I take advantage of the situation? And it is something that I have carried into my adulthood. So how I got into business in school, my degree is also in entrepreneurship. I was employed for several years in the banking sector, telecommunication, and also a nonprofit. But I also felt that in some ways, like Nyawera, wanted to be able to just own my time. But as sometimes you realize as an entrepreneur, that's not always the case, but that is your desire ultimately. So I got into business, one, because from my heart, I wanted to also create jobs. I wanted to give opportunities to others in terms of something that I have passion for, but also to be able to be in control, more in control of what I am doing. So that is how I ended up in 𝐁𝐿. And as you mentioned, it's interior-scaping. A lot of people ask, what is interior-scaping? And interior-scaping is not landscaping. I think it's important to be able to point that out. But what like 𝐁𝐿 does is that we bring the outdoors indoors. So for example, we want to green your space. We live in a very concrete jungle in a lot of places. So what we do is that we bring planters, gardening accessories, garden furniture. So more so making your space green, be it your office, be it your home, whatever your environment, so that it creates a more conducive space in our living environment for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. You found a gap. You are also looking for your own time, but you would give us more why you said it's usually not the case when you're in business. But thank you so much for giving us a brief. We'll quickly cross over and find out also what motivated you, Engineer Carol.
Thank you, Anna. Nice to see you again. I think my motivation was basically my environment. So I am an electrical engineer and I got a scholarship to go to Glasgow University of Glasgow in Scotland. And I remember being around innovators, being around entrepreneurs and forward thinkers. And one day, one of my friends invited me to a cafe in London And when we went and sat down, we were looking at this competition. And, we decided, okay, we're going to go into this competition, but what is it that you and I have in common? And we thought electric mobility is something that was up and coming in that time. And we designed this thing, we sketched it on a piece of paper, and we said, okay, we're going to go into this competition and we're going to do this. And I think that story is beautiful because we literally did not know where that piece of paper or that sketch that we did on that piece of paper would lead. But it was the beginning of a story into the world of entrepreneurship. Fast forward a few years later, we joined another competition. Oh, that one wasn't successful, but a few years later, we joined another competition. And I think winning that competition was a validation of our product and our ideas. And that led to the birth of 𝐸Safiri. So entrepreneurship for me has been a journey of self-discovery, and it's been inspired by being in an environment where people want to do something different and want to build, things that actually transform lives. So it's, motivation that comes from the environment, but also comes from a passion to want to impact my community. So thank you, Anne.
Lovely, lovely, engineer. What I hear everybody say, you have to identify your motivation, the reason behind why you begin your business. And I love how frankly they have put it. Some of them was they saw a gap in the space they're operating in. They were looking for flexibility. So dear business owner, look at what was your motivation towards getting into business, and then that will hold you despite the challenges that we are going to face. And as we are discussing today, we are discussing more about resilience. We are discussing about disruptions that are happening in the industry. We are discussing about how do we wrestle back when we are faced with all this disruption. How do we position ourselves? And I would like, if we could share our personal strategy, first of all, defining what does resilience mean to you as a business owner? What does resilience mean to you? And also just giving us some of the very practical things that you do when you find that your business industry it's operating in a very disruptive organization. So to begin up, we could have Linda.
Thank you, Anne. I like your question in regard to resilience and how and what. When I started the business, one of the things that I was asked is, or I asked myself as I was going forward is, am I a solution looking for a problem? Because you could get into a space and you actually do not have a market in terms of what you are going to try and put out. And considering that mine was something that was very different, I did my market research, which is something you need to do. Also be able to understand what, who is your end user, and is it sustainable? Are you going to be a one-hit wonder? And as I did that research, the scary thing about my business at that point is that there was no one else doing it. So I didn't really even have data for the market to be able to see whether this is a possibility. But what I did find is that people like architects, interior landscapers, interior architects were continually saying, we do not have the right products to be able to match our new drawings and what we want to be able to do. So I went there with, was a bit of a risk being able to go out and then say, okay, fine, this is what we're going to do. And it has paid off, because then what happened is that they then said the solutions that we were providing was what they were looking for. So let's give an example around the COVID period. I remember when COVID hit, I think everyone was like, it's 2 weeks. Then it became 3 weeks. And then I thought, okay, fine, is this going to work? What's going to happen to the business? What's going to happen to my staff? And what I then did is like, okay, we need to change. What do we need to change first and foremost? And what are we going to put out? So one of the things I did was, you need to be able to listen to what are people saying out there? What are we saying internally? And what can we be able to provide? And it was very interesting because the first people, I'm like, I need my staff. So are they willing to be able to go out? We're in the middle of a pandemic. And everyone was like, how are we going to pay our bills if we don't get back to work? Can we find a solution? So I said, okay, fine, my people are willing. So what do we then do? And we actually came up with products that were specific to people who were in lockdown. A lot of people were home. a lot of people wanted their spaces to be redone. They all of a sudden realized, we haven't been home, we haven't sat at home for this duration of time, and I don't like what I'm seeing. So we provided solutions for that. And it carried us well in through COVID. And when we came back, when we were going back to the offices, they were like, we also want solutions. So I think it's that thing of being agile, being able to be flexible, and being able to listen. Those are the things that I've learned around resilience through my time in entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Linda. You have put it simple. Agile, listen, and be able to respond to what the disruptions are costing you. Now, quickly, we could move on to Engineer Carol. What is resilience? And what are some of the practical things that you did, especially during the COVID and also the economic downturn? We are experiencing a lot of economic downturn.
Yeah, I think and the worst possible time to start a business was during COVID, but it could have also been the best. And I look at it as the best time for us. 𝐸𝐴𝐴𝐴 was built at a time when, you know, first of all, it's in an emerging industry. People need knowledge more right now than they do need the infrastructure. They need to understand why it's important for us to switch to electric or to transition into electric mobility. So first of all, that was a task in itself. It became more knowledge share before product build. And I think that then informed how we were innovating. So in an emerging industry, resilience for me or for us means being able to design, iterate, and then pivot based on data. So the data that we collect, the information we get from our users, then informs how we operate or how we design our products. And I think another thing about what we do is we are not running a sprint, we are running a marathon. So resilience for me is being able to understand that you're playing the long game and not trying to look for instant gratification with your business or with your solution. It's really inspired the team to continue to innovate, continue to ask questions, and be able to discard ideas that we initially thought were very good, but were not contextually viable for our market. So I think that has taught me, and as a person, that patience is one great key to resilience. But also learning in your patience. So as you're patient, you continue to learn, to ask the right questions, and to build a business that is flexible enough to pivot when the requirements, you know, when you are required to. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Carol. Pivoting. So are we ready to reinvent ourselves, or are we just very rigid that we cannot change? That is what is coming out, that we must be ready to pivot. Let's see Nyawera.
Thanks, Anne. So for me, resilience, if I can sum it up in 2 words, it's to be persistent, to persevere, to withstand, to get knocked off the saddle and get back on. And when I think about practically we've had many challenging moments over the last 10 years. When I think about what has sustained us through those times of needing to persevere, it's been around having a clear why. Why are we in this business? Why are we doing what we are doing? And that why sitting not just with myself as a founder and the other directors, but also our staff. So the second part of resilience, other than just having clarity on why we're here, what sets us apart, is also surrounding yourself with good people. A solid team makes or breaks you, because as a leader, you work through others. Having solid counsel, speaking to people more senior than you, more seasoned than you, not necessarily in your industry, so seeking counsel. And then the other aspect I think about resilience that I would say I've learned over the years is sometimes you have to go slow to go fast. And so taking a step back slightly in order, as my fellow panelists have said, to give you headspace to figure out how you need to pivot. And then lastly, I think with the people, it's just having clear values, what your business stands for, and just making sure that the values that are ingrained in your business help you ride, shall I say, the tide of wave, the tide of change that will come. So why people going slow to go fast, and then just having very strong business values or organizational values.
Thank you, Nyawera. So for you, it's more of the why, aligning the team also who buys into your vision, taking a step back. The key takeout, and I would love especially all of us as business owners, is to find out that disruption will continuously come, but what strategy are we going to deploy? Elections will come and go. How prepared are we? Let's not find it's abrupt. COVID came. How prepared are you, or what strategy?
Hi, Ann. I think we are losing you. Are you there?
She looks like she hangs.
Hello?
Can you
Hello?
hear me? Yes, she's back.
My apology. My apology. My apology, I lost you. Just a quick wrap up. It was a wrap up of what resilient strategy are we deploying as business owners. They always say that for every act of creation, there must be an act of destruction. So our businesses will be forced and face various destruction. How do we embrace them, and how do we survive? I like it when Nyawera talked about you are in this business, you have to take a step back, you have to go on a go slow, but also business is demanding. Business is demanding. And as a business entrepreneur, or as a woman entrepreneur who is running a business, they always say that running a business is hard, but running a successful business is much harder, both mentally, emotionally. So as a business owner, and more so as a woman, how do you balance? How do you balance the family, the work, the career, your youth self? Nyawera.
Oh, and I was hoping you don't choose me first so I can learn from Linda and Engineer Carol. Oh, because if I could be very honest, I think that's the form. There's no formula. So it's so difficult to try and figure out how to balance. I mean, the reality is that as women, we hold so many different responsibilities. And all those responsibilities are very demanding. You could be a wife, a mother, you have elderly parents, you're a member of community and society. And so I think that these strategies, evolve and change as the business grows, but also as you as an individual grow and mature. Just some of the small things I have started doing now after 10 years is not taking my laptop home. This year, I started a pattern of every 3 months, I go on a self-retreat, me, myself, and I, for 2 days. I go, I leave the phone. But it's taken 10 years to figure out that those are the self-care things that I need to do. But I think the biggest one, and for me, in terms of balance, has been recognizing that, and I hope this comes out clearly, I am not my business. My business is a separate entity. I work in the business, but it is not me. It is not my identity. So if the business fails, I haven't failed as a person. So actually, on Friday, I can put the business away and go on with my life. So I think the strategies change, and I'm keen to hear what Linda and Engineer have to say, because it is challenging. It is challenging.
Very well. Thank you, Nyawera, for sharing some of the bits, how you have maneuvered. So Engineer Carol, how do you maneuver your work, your family, yourself?
I like what Nyawera said. I mean, there isn't no strategy. Oh, okay, there isn't no clear strategy, or it does change and evolve every time. But what I told myself, and I think I keep telling myself, is there's no balance. There's no work-life self-balance. At least for me, it is always that at any one point something has to give. But then how do I make peace with that? It's to give 100% at everything when I'm actually engaging in that thing. So I have a 6-year-old, and at 6, they are a handful. She requires your attention fully. So what happens is when I'm on mom mode, and I will not pick up business calls, I will not sit on my laptop. But when it's time for business, then we have an understanding. She knows that when mommy's on a call, or when mommy's on the phone, or mommy's on the laptop, then now it's work mode. And I think then she's also picking up that habit, and she'll tell you, I need some private time. I want to read my book, because we have this structure. I think I'm just lucky because I have a child like her. And also maybe my family is also very understanding. I know that I get questions from women a lot, especially when I left to go for my master's when my child was just 1.5. It was a very difficult decision to make. And most women ask me, how did you, discuss with your family, with your partner, with the child, that, this is something that you have to do. How do you make peace with that? And I'm always honest that for me, it was having a very strong support system with family members who are like, you need to go do this. This is important, but we're going to hold the fort when you're gone. When it comes to business, it's the same effort, and I am grateful for that. So I really never know what to tell people other than surrounding yourself with people who actually get why you're doing what you do and support it. It won't always be the same. The support doesn't come in the same efforts, but whenever you get it, whenever I get it, I appreciate it. Another thing that I wanted to say is that the expectation for women to have this balance is way higher. And it's because our role in society is also predetermined, and the expectations are very high. So as a woman business owner, I have to keep reminding myself that it is not an internal battle, but sometimes it's a societal battle. So if I am going to respond, I have to ask myself, am I responding to this, or am I feeling this guilt because of an internal battle, or because society expects me to feel guilty for choosing to go to the office on a Saturday morning, or something like that? So there's a bit of a complex self-awareness thing that also comes with it. But like I said, there is no balance. There's only 100% at every given moment when you're engaging with the different facets of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Carol. Giving 100% in all that you do. Maybe family, giving it 100%. Maybe at work, giving it 100%. I am reminded that this is an interactive session, though. So if you have any question, please feel free to raise your hand. We are not able to put our questions on the chat button. Let's make it engaging. So raise up your hand if you have any question. But we'll still have a Q&A question. But if you have a burning question, please put your hand up, and then the technical team is going to unmute you, and you could engage the panelists. As we discuss work-life balance, we also have Linda, who is juggling between her family, her career, and her also personal life. So how do you do it?
And there is no work-life balance. I will tell you that clearly. For me, that does not work. I threw that out of the window, especially after I got my daughter, and I just realized it just doesn't work that way. And I'm a lot like Carol in the sense of when you're in it, you're very clear that this is the direction you're in at that particular time. But also what I have learned is to leverage, to be able to have what I would call a strategy or a coping mechanism in terms of trying to make sure that balls do not get dropped. So for example, a simple thing, especially when you're a mother there was a time I was told a very long time ago that every wife needs a wife. And I found that very interesting because I thought, what does that mean? And that means if it's your house manager or your people at home, how empowered are they? Are they people you actually trust? What's your relationship with them? So that you know if you need to go for a meeting or if you need to do this and the other, there's someone who is there to take care of your child. So just making sure that systems are in place around all the areas that are important. So that when you're focusing on something else, you know the other areas are being taken care of by people who your heart is not racing perpetually, or you're on your phone trying to manage home or trying to manage that, and you can't. So I found at the office, do I have, as even Nya was saying earlier, good people who are handling your work so that as you know you're not picking up calls, you know that the person in the office is doing what they need to be able to do. But also have mechanisms that even as they're reporting back to you, you know that key areas have been addressed. If you're at home, because you know, if you're a mother, you're 70% of the time your head and your heart is there wondering, how are they doing? What are they doing? Where are they okay? All those factors. Are they safe? Do you have systems in place to ensure that if you need a report on them, are they fine? So work-life balance, that for me does not exist. But all I try to do is make sure that the people who are around me are able to support me to be able to give my best self at the point I'm at. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for saying having a coping mechanism. I'd like to pose a question to all of us. Do we have a coping mechanism? Just take a minute and do an introspect, look into your life, into your career, into your business. Do you have a coping mechanism? And I remember one interesting moderation discussion I was having. And I got this feedback when I asked about work-life balance. And she gave me a very successful business owner. She gave me this example of, and system must work. And I don't want to feel guilty because I did not deliver. So she had a very good PA, or what we call a secretary. And the secretary was told, I have a 6-year-old. They go to school at this time. These are the questions that he would prefer to be asked over lunch hour before he sleeps. I must sing to him this lullaby. So he created a whole system. So should the little boy call, please say, Mommy is not around, but I know if Mommy was around, you're about to go to bed. This is a song that you love. Can we sing them? You know, creating a system that works. So I would challenge all of us. Let's look at what are some of our coping mechanisms, regardless of the situation that we are in. How do we cope? And how do we also maintain our self-care? I have a hand raised up. I hope. Are you able to unmute the technical team?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, thank you very much. To all the panelists, maybe you can help me on this. As usual, people say, I'm asking for a friend. As a man, how can we help the women in our lives to be more resilient, especially in business?
Okay, thank you. That's a question from a man who says they have their fellow women who are entrepreneurs. How do you support them so that they can be successful? Linda, would you like to take that?
I'd like to speak from a perspective where I have a very, very supportive husband. And I will go into a space and I need to be able to do this or the other. And he always asks, so how do I help? I think that's the question, not being prescriptive as a man in terms of trying to give her solutions to what she needs help with, but just asking, that's that simple question, how can I help? For example, there's an engagement that I have every Friday evening, and it's something we discussed. I told him, I need to be able to do this every Friday evening. What do we do? And he said, okay, can I help you by doing this, or how do you need help? And we've come to a compromise. So he doesn't feel like I'm imposing, because it's also something that he's also wanted to contribute to. And also for me, I feel the liberty and the flexibility to be able to engage in that activity without feeling that I'm doing him an injustice. So I think that's one way. How do you help? Is being able to ask her. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Linda. It's just candidly asking her, how do I help you? How do I step in and assist? Engineer Carol, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, Linda, please say hi to them there, because I think that's fantastic. Another thing that I think is important to note is support in a partnership or in a marriage is not always going to be 100 from each partner. I think that one thing that my husband and I do is we are very clear about the situation where it's not going to be 100 from each partner. So what happens is I know that I will hold the fort at certain times, and he knows that he'll hold the fort at certain times. So it helps us to know that, right now I am, involved in a project, or I am going to be traveling in and out of the country for the next 3 months, and it's your turn to hold the fort. So having that understanding that I will not always be the one taking care of certain things, it means that we have an equal responsibility for different aspects of the household. So supporting her could come in that form where you understand that there won't be a designated role for one partner. It would mean that, as 𝐁𝐮𝐬 or as the husband, you have to take responsibility for things that have been predominantly set aside for women. And then there are times when, she will take charge of certain things that are predominantly set aside for the man in the relationship. So it's always just having that clear understanding. Yeah.
Perfectly well put. Let's just have a clear understanding. How do you step in and how do you support? Thank you so much, Engineer. Nyawera, would you like also to weigh in and give us a few thoughts of how does the husband support a woman entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think, I concur with everything that Engineer Carol and Linda have said. I think the only thing I would add is, I think just the practical needs. If I can build on, I think what Engineer was alluding to about giving and taking, I think it's just getting really practical support. If I think of my husband at the moment, I hope this is recorded so he can hear and I can get brownie points tonight. But he will drop the children in school. He will be available to do homework with the children. He will be available for their activities if I'm not available. So a lot of giving and take, but also when I think of my own husband, he's actually my sounding board. Because he's not in the business and not close to issues, he tends to be a lot more objective with how things really are. And so if I'm even blowing something in proportion, by listening and empathizing with my situation, he's able to help me see a different perspective. Because sometimes when you're too close to a problem or your surroundings, you won't see clearly. And so I think it's also about being a sounding board. I know men tend to want to fix things quickly, but I think it's holding back slightly and just listening and then weighing in objectively with empathy on how to perhaps navigate a particular season or a particular problem and so forth.
Perfectly. To all the gentlemen who are on call, you have heard it from the women. How would you support us? How would we step in and give us the comfort as we are running some of these big organizations? Just asking us, how can I step in? Providing us a sounding board, providing us what we call a system. How do you plug in when I'm already committed? So to all the gentlemen, thank you so much, Benedict, for asking on behalf of the men. As we go on, kindly, if you have any question, please raise your hand. Feel free to interject, and then we could still get to listen to your question. Now, you have heard it, how the successful women have done it in terms of building resilience. They have also shared very well. I can see a hand up. That is Michael.
Thank you, Anne. Let me ask this question to the panelists. What would be one of those happy moments that you've had in your business and that has made the whole difference for you?
What are some of the memorable moments? Even if we say that business is hard, but also we say that entrepreneurship is the greatest job on planet. There are seasons that you'll be happy. the seasons you'll be cringing and saying, why did I begin this? So what are some of those burst energy moments that you have had as an entrepreneur? Linda?
It's I like that question because it's one of those that I wish I should print out and put up on my wall to keep reminding me why I'm doing what I do. So as I mentioned earlier, as I started this business, there was really not a lot of market research that I could be able to do to be able to then determine, is it really going to be a success or not? So to be very honest, my happiest moment was my first client who came into my shop and made a purchase and gave me cash and told me, I believe in you. For me, that was such a eureka moment. And I remember I came home and I was like, there's someone who actually believes in what I am doing. And along the way, you can get numbed by it in terms of business is coming in, now you're pushing for numbers, what is the accountant saying, new market, new product. But I think going back to that original passion, the original, why am I doing this, even as Nya, I think has talked about the why, and being able to continually service and satisfy your clients, that you're saying after 10 years, you're still able to fulfill that you're still relevant. I think for me, that is the greatest satisfaction. So one, that first client who made purchase, and today that people still come back and they say, we like your product, we like what you do. I think that is the greatest, that's what gives me happiness and joy. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for putting it as it is. The sale, the first sale, they always say that it's never, sales is never old. Whether it was the first sale up to now when people are still buying and believing into your vision, that becomes your aha moment and your greatest energy booster when you're running a business. Nyawera, what are some of the memorable times as an entrepreneur have you enjoyed?
There's been a couple, but I think one that stands out in my mind is I celebrated a birthday recently, 3 months ago, and my team got me a card and they each had written a message in it. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for taking a chance on us and helping us grow. Wishing you a happy birthday, inspiring leader, inspiring boss. You know, the journey of entrepreneurship, we don't get congratulated or validated a lot. And so when your team come back to wish you a happy birthday and also share the impact working in the organization has had for them, it's rewarding. So I'd say those are some of my more recent memorable moments.
Okay, lovely. Having the team remember you, because sometimes we get engrossed and we do forget about ourselves. Thank you, Engineer Carol.
Yeah, oh, Nyawera, that is so beautiful. I'm so happy, and I think I should show my team this video. With me, I want to add. But yeah, I think for me, the most memorable and the happiest moments have been, and like Nyawera said, around validation. So having someone or some experience that makes you realize that what you're doing counts and it's actually impactful. And one of those things is winning. When we win a grant, or when we win a tender, or when we are able to successfully bid for something and get it, it feels very validating. It's very exciting, despite knowing how much work you have to put in beyond that point. But in that moment, you feel like, yeah, somebody believes in my idea. Another thing is my industry is heavily male dominated, and finding a business model that actually includes women in an emerging industry, and finding solutions that actually help women get revenue from our model has been something that made me happy. So in the partnerships that we make with our communities, for example, we use women-owned small businesses to do battery swapping. So we train women on battery swapping, we put up the infrastructure in the existing places, and then they can get some extra revenue from that. seeing their faces, seeing how exciting it is, trying to ask questions. What is this electric mobility? What does it mean? It's always such a beautiful feeling. We're also running some projects one in Kakuma and another one starting soon in Marsabit, and going to site and just seeing how beautiful our country is, and how much of a difference a small project like that could make in that environment is also very powerful and exciting for me. Another thing which I think I like, and I didn't know that I liked until, I started doing, which gets me very happy and excited, is the showmanship that comes with pitching. So I don't think many women, and I don't speak for all women entrepreneurs, but I know most female entrepreneurs have a very difficult time standing in front of people and saying, I want you to believe in this business and I want you to give me your money. I have come to realize that we have so much power as women to be able to convince the world that our ideas are relevant and that we have the technical and the technical capacity to deliver. So standing in front of people, like last week we were at the Smart Cities World Expo in Barcelona, and I stood in front of thousands of global participants and spoke, and they came to me and said, we believe in you and this is what we want to do. We want to partner with you. We want to do this for you. That really is a winning moment, and it's an exciting, happy, memorable feeling for me. So thank you, Anne.
Oh, lovely. Thank you for raising the last point about putting ourselves in front of investors. How prepared are we? Sometimes a lot of us, especially women, we tend to shy, and it's always good to keep on practicing in front of your camera, in front of your mirror. Just practice in front of your family, in front of your team. Keep on practicing so that you can eventually nail it. And as we wind up, I would like to bring to a note that kindly allow us to extend by 15 minutes. We will be closing down at 11:15. We began a bit late, so kindly give us a few more minutes and then we could be closing. Yes, Linda, your hand is up.
I want to just speak in regard to that issue of raising funding. I've spoken, I've been on some panels and also been approached by venture capitalists in terms of, are you interested in us being able to make an investment into your business? And I think even Mike could attest to this, is that women are very averse to taking capital. We're extremely averse to taking capital. And I think it would be interesting to understand fully why, because it's not sometimes that we don't need the capital. I don't know, there's a fear that we have for taking on capital, but we do need capital to be able to grow our businesses to a certain degree. So I think that's one thing. Is it lack of preparedness? Is it that we don't know how to structure ourselves around that? So I would just want to give that challenge to Mike to help us understand as women why we're not good at taking capital.
Apology, I think I'm on. Just speaking about investment, I'd love to bring to your attention that Business Partner International is really interested in women-owned businesses. And you can imagine this, they have allocated up to 40% of their fund to support women. So it will be good to talk to them. They have put their details on the chat. So we'd like to change this narrative around that women are averse when it comes to capital taking. So kindly talk to Business Partner because they're interested in women-led businesses. I can see a hand raised. Victor, you're on call. Please go ahead. Victor, could you kindly unmute yourself?
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My question will be, there is this aspect of the Pareto principle where we understand that 20% of what we do is going to be responsible for, let's say, 80% of the return. Maybe just from where the panelists sit at, have they been able to navigate this particular terrain in terms of identifying the 20 and being consistent with the same? in the practical world of business? Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Just to reiterate what Victor is asking, is that we always say there's a 20 that you can do to bring the 80% difference. So what are some of the things as business which are operated by women? What are some of the things that you have prioritized and also focus on to give the 80% output? We could begin by Nyawera.
Thanks for the question. I think it was Victor.
Yes.
I think actually we abide by the Pareto principle, whereby 80% of our revenue is actually generated by 20% of our clients. The reason we do adopt that as a strategy is so that we're able to focus our resources more effectively. We're a small team of 10, and so it would be very ineffective to try and service a large pool of clients. And so we've been very specific on our target organizations. We've been very intentional in the type of clients that we seek to position ourselves in front of. We've also been very intentional in the type of staff we try and attract into the organization, because indeed the Pareto principle even applies in terms of your staff, where 20% will actually be delivering almost 80% of their output. And that's just the business model we have adopted. Now, the thing we've tried to do over the 10 years is also try and de-risk that 20%, because you don't want to be overly reliant on the same 20% year on, because things happen. Industries collapse. We saw what how COVID disrupted various industries. So we try to be very intentional about growing our pipeline, thinking about a year from now, who would constitute our 20%. So Victor, I don't know if that helps, but I think it's just being about very intentional about who your targets are, your positioning, and even how you align your resources to deliver for your 20%.
Thank you. What I hear you say is just being very intentional in terms of looking at what resources do I have internally and how do I align them well to give you the 80% output. If we could pick your brain, Linda, on the same.
Thank you, Anne. And yeah, that was a very, I think sometimes we need to hear other people so that you also understand your own dynamic. And for ourselves, what happened is that you will find that you may start small, then you grow. And we are also lean, intentionally lean. And one of the ways that we have worked is we are very purposeful in terms of that most people can be able to fill into someone else's shoes. We are never more than 5 permanent staff at any given point. But if we then have assignments that are larger, we have a trained pool of resources who are able to also step in. So that's one. 2 is also because of that, the growth that you have as a business, you might find that you might be ignoring a certain element of your business, the way Nya is saying that over dependency on one aspect of your 20%. And then you then think this part of the business is not generating revenue. But one thing I would encourage any business is just to understand your own data. What are you using to understand your own business? So what we then did is that we went internal and tried to understand how much of this portion, even as you have your various allocations, bring you what level of revenue. So for example, I had mentioned that we work with architects, with landscape interior designers and such likes. But we also had the retail arm where we were working a lot with what we call our general customer. And when we looked at our books, for me, I was in shock because I then realized, oh my goodness, our general customer and also our larger customers, who we say is our bread and butter, they were almost at par. Yes, the numbers were a lot more in terms of our general customer. But then I realized, am I giving enough attention? How do I draw in more of this type of client? Because I could have possibly been ignoring them, thinking that they were not bringing enough revenue. So understand your own data, understand your stage of where you are in your business, and then address, find a way to be able to grow or nurture that area, because it could be a low-hanging fruit that you are ignoring.
Excellent. Understand your data. How many of us have had time to interrogate our data? And I can tell you data can add a lot of insights. Do you have a time to look at your data in terms of your debtors, in terms of your customers? Do you understand their pattern? That is a question that Linda is throwing back to us. Understand and analyze your data, and also appreciate the stage that you are in as a business. We could finish up by having Carol.
Yes, thank you, Anne, and thank you, Victor, I believe. So I don't want to go into sales and the team stroke workforce application of the Pareto principle, because the other two very able panelists have covered that. I'd like to cover maybe time management when it comes to the Pareto principle and how we implement that. Also, it's very clear that 20% of the time spent on a productive work day will be used for productive work. The other 80% will go into maybe not very productive activities, and it's human nature also that you'll give your very best at certain times of day, and then the other 80% you'll be trying to figure out, what am I exactly doing here? Why am I in the office today? It's very natural. So what we try to do is the 20% of our most productive work days, we enable our team to have the correct tools to assist in being able to bring out the most productive work and have the highest output. Now, these tools come in different forms. It could be a hot cup of coffee. It could be being able to have a comfortable working space, or having the correct tools and softwares to be able to do your work. It could also be being able to have access to your direct report, so your direct manager or supervisor, to ask questions and bounce idea off each other, and make sure that your 20% is spent actually producing what you're meant to produce. And for the other 80%, it's left for meetings or brainstorming, or all hands discussions where you're trying to figure out problems together in a group or in a team. That then helps to, yes, raise productivity during your 20%, but also helps you feel like you're involved in a team, and when you're feeling down or when you're not able to be as productive, then you're hearing ideas that could then help you when you're a bit more upbeat and ready for your 20%. Thank you, Anne.
On touching about time management, but also you have talked about spending time to create the necessary tool. There's always a saying that says, if you had 1 hour to chop down a tree, how would you spend the hour? They mostly say that they'll spend the first 45 sharpening. And that's what Nyawera is talking, Carol is talking about. Let's sharpen, let's put system, let's have the right tools and the right team to deliver that. Thank you so much. Time is not on our side. We'll pick 2 more questions and then we wind up. We have a hand from Julia. So Julia, if you could unmute yourself. Julia, are you there? Okay, as she tries to figure out where the mic is, we have Melanie, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Anne. So being part of the host, but I still have a question. Having dealt with women-led businesses for a while now, I think Linda is the one who said about women shying off from asking for capital because they do need it for their businesses. Now, could she touch on, are there biases by the financiers, the investors, when dealing with women businesses? And what do you think can be done to start the conversation along those lines, to remove the biases, that is, if there are any?
Melanie, thank you very much for that question. From my perspective, I don't think that there is, if you position yourself correctly, the issue is not the financier not wanting to fund you, because even as TBN, as BPI, the funds are available for women. But I think it's softer issues that are not ordinarily addressed. They're issues to do with the women themselves. Are they prepared for that responsibility of taking on either the releasing equity or absorbing debt? That is the issue that needs to be addressed, because a lot of the times you feel you will take the money. Then there is the soft issues. Will I be able to pay it back? Are these people going to hound me? What is my security? There are a lot of factors that are around that. that are an impediment for a woman. But also sometimes you will find you will be asked for a security that is sometimes out of reach for you as a woman. And or you could be asked, your husband has to co-sign this, or your partner has to be able to be alongside you with this to be able to access the funding. So that sometimes can be a put-off because those are the issues that are quote unquote unspeakable about in the formal setting that will then dissuade you from accessing the funding. But I think as I mentioned earlier, to be able to also as financiers to look at some of these issues, to actually look at the soft issues, because the hard issues could be there, but also softer issues that are a deterrent of approaching or absorbing capital.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda. And I can tell you this is a topic of interest, especially to women in business. And Michael, I would love to call Michael to weigh in also on the same issue. Why are women averse to borrowing?
Interesting. I think that one of the reasons, in my opinion, it's more from a customary point of view. Women have not been allowed to make a lot of decisions by society. And because of that, they've grown up knowing that they cannot, and therefore they do not. Not because they don't have the ability to, but because the society to some extent has ingrained it in them that they actually can't do it or they shouldn't do it. So I think that's one of the bit that I pick out from conversations with women. The second bit is that I think women overcalculate. They overanalyze. If they know that they need to pay 100,000 for argument's sake, until they're sure they can afford to pay 200,000, they will not take a facility that they need to pay 100,000. So they keep calculating and calculating. And my fear at times is that opportunity passes them as they calculate, because time doesn't wait for anyone. Opportunity knocks once, it doesn't knock twice. So I think that's a challenge I keep pushing to women. I tell them, I ever heard of a man taking a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, making a call, whether they normally say, come on, Mbaya. Let's just go do this. Let's figure it out as we go. At times they burn, and maybe that's why there's a saying that women live longer, and it's because men take too many risks, even some that are not necessary. But I think women need to take a little bit more risk and just say, from everything, you will never be able to do 100% analysis and make a call. But in my opinion, if you get somewhere to close to 80%, take the risk and move on. I think that's really my thought on that point.
Anne, you're muted. Anne, you're muted.
My apology. I'm saying thank you, Michael. You have attracted some reactions on the chat room when you talked about women being over-calculative. So I wouldn't want to open up that. But Julia, are you able to unmute yourself and speak? Julia, are you there?
Anna, as you wait for Julia, Julia, just give me a short 10 seconds to respond to Mike. Okay. Mike, I think it's very interesting that you say that women are risk averse. I don't believe it applies entirely. And like you said, something as you started speaking, it's societal nurturing that we were taught to be more quiet in rooms, to not ask for too much, don't smile too much, don't do this, don't do that. And I think if we are going to talk about solving this problem long term, I think maybe this is the platform where we could tell ourselves, as we raise our children or as we interact with the women in our spaces and the women that we have access to, we could try as hard as we can to destroy these societal nurturing. I think I've spoken to VCs or even investors who have made space for women and the way we process and the way we behave. And I think it's important that systems were built for risky people. They were not built for people who actually take time to think through things. And I think it's time that we then build our systems to cater to different types of entrepreneurs or different types of systems that can help even women who are still struggling with that. Personally, I had to break off those chains where you know, self-doubt and taking too long to make decisions, but not every woman has that ability, even those with the best ideas, some that we've not even had yet. So it's an interesting conversation to have, but I think it's our responsibility, all of us, to take our time to do right by our women and our girls and our daughters.
Thank you, Engineer, for weighing on that we need to break the bias. It begins by us who are here. We need to break the bias, and let's go out, also spread the same language that women, let's not be averse when it comes to borrowing. Let's take it up. Let's position ourselves. Money is there, but let's rise up to the occasion. I hope, Julia, you are able to talk before I give it to Lucy. Julia, are you there? Julia? Okay. You could allow Lucy? Yes.
And just a minute, I think, can TBN admin try and unmute Julia? Because she's been waiting for long.
TBN, could you help us? The technical team, could you help us? Could you help us unmute her? There you go. Yes, Julia.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. This is very informative, but along the way, when I raised my hand, my question has been answered, and especially on now the fear that women we have to pick up and take up even small loans. And I have seen we've been answered by TBN on the support that they are offering on women, and therefore I don't think I want to repeat myself because in the interest of time. Otherwise, thank you so much, and this is very informative, and especially on the women who are on startup and scaling up.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, there's some good information that is placed on the chat. Please take some time to go through the chat and pick what really works for you. As we wind up, Lucy, your hand is up. Lucy? Lucy, are you still there? Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Lucy, go ahead.
Oh, you can
Go
hear me
ahead.
now. Yes, I
Yes.
think Engineer Carol has spoken on my behalf because I totally disagree with my good friend Michael there. Some of us are risk takers, and I've been doing this even before I was in business. So I think it's an individual decision. It's not something we can generalize. I just wanted to clear that.
Lovely. Thank you for the clarification. And I can tell you, Mike, the women who are on call here, you say that BPI is interested with working with women-owned businesses, and that you have allocated about 40% of your funds to support the women. And I can tell you the women on call will be reaching out. They are not risk averse, and they are not averse to borrowing. Thank you so much, fellow ladies. I would like to, just to close the webinar, just picking a few parting shot. Just like half a minute from all the panelists, what would be your quick advice to everybody who is logged in here in regards to running a successful business? How do they position? Your quick parting shot, we could begin by Linda.
Thank you, Anne. One of the things I would say is always be prepared. And what do I mean by that? That even as you're starting your business, or even if you're a business that is already operational, make sure that all your areas are covered. For example, making sure that your books, you have the right financial system. Do you have the right accountant? Do you also have, are you well with KRA and things to do with VAT? How are you legally structured? Be always prepared. Look at your whole business holistically. Look at it from a strategic position. Look at it from a business model position, and ensure that you're very clear in terms of your proposition, and make sure that at any given time, should you need anything to enhance your business to the best of your ability, that you are ready.
Thank you, Linda. We could go to Nyawera.
Thank you, Linda. I think, Anne, I have two parting shots. One is don't fear success. Don't fear success. Embrace it and run with it. My second parting shot is the urgent issues always shout the loudest. And the urgent issues are the crisis, the customer that's upset, trying to pay salaries, dealing with city council, as Linda said, paying VAT and all the like. The important things usually are the quietest and they get ignored. Planning, building a team, building a culture or an environment in your organization or your company where people want to come to work. Making sure that you have the right systems and procedures in place. The important things are usually the quietest and the ones that are ignored until it's too late. And so don't let the urgent override or make you ignore what is actually important. Thank you.
You have it there, and I hope some of us were tweeting, don't fear success. Urgent issues, they shout the loudest, but the most important ones are quiet. Lovely. Thank you so much, Nyawera. We go to Engineer Carol.
Oh, I think Nyawera and Linda have said very inspirational parting shots and very important, even for me. I'm learning from them today, and that's very beautiful. I read something this morning that says, if you don't go after what you want, you will never have it. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't step forward, you're always in the same place. Now, what I would say is, if you're getting into entrepreneurship or business or any task that you want to undertake, even if it's a new role in employment, I mean, just cast a wide net. For the 1,000 no's you'll get, there could possibly just be one yes, and that is what will transform your business or your life. You don't have to have it figured out all the time, because I think this is one thing that really holds us back. It's trying to be able to make sure that you know everything there is to know about business and you know it well. It may not be the same for all of us, so you can learn as you go, invest in the right team, invest in the right advisors, and then pick up where you drop the ball. So don't be afraid to cast a wide net. There'll be 1,000 no's for sure, but there'll be one yes that could transform you, and you don't have to have it figured out all the time.
Thank you, Engineer. It's simply seek, ask, and knock. Don't keep quiet and cast your net wide. And as we come to a close, I don't know whether, Mike, you have your parting shots?
I think it's to say thank you very much to everyone. It's been a lovely conversation. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Nyawera. And thank you, Engineer Carol, for sparing your time to just come and share your stories. I think most of the time when women come to webinars like this, they come and share how difficult it has been to get where they have gotten. But we never get to see and hear the beautiful stories of where they've come from and what they've achieved. So I think today for me, that was quite refreshing. And then just the reassurance from a couple of ladies here that they're not risk averse. I'm excited today to come out of this room with that excitement that there are ladies who want to go for it. So please, let's spread the word. Let's get that societal notion out of our young girls and ladies as they get into entrepreneurship and into life, to know that they can reach out for things that in the past have not been reached out by women. But thank you very much. And for everyone who attended the webinar, despite the delay and everything, we really, really appreciate your coming on board. So thank you very much. And thank you, TBN, for partnering with us on this one.
Thank you, Mike, for putting across your closing remarks. Just as a way of encouraging all of us is that we are a very big community, especially of women entrepreneurs. Like right now on call, we are more than 53 women who are trading, who are doing businesses. And what does that mean? That you must make sure that you seek out to them, connect with them, just chat them up. Get to connect, get to have a mentor, get to have somebody to hold your hand as you walk this journey. They always say entrepreneurship is lonely, but you don't want to remain saying that it is lonely. You have an opportunity to connect with all these amazing and successful women. Please also take note of some of the good things that are happening. BPI, they have allocated up to 40% of their fund that is purely targeted on women. We also have TBN, who are also running an amazing program that is targeting the women. They offer the support around capacity building, training, leadership, and raising capital. So please, I would urge you, take contact, connect with them even beyond the webinar. But from my end, I wish to say thank you so much. Thank you for displaying your resilience. Despite the challenges that we had as we began, thank you, ladies, that you logged in and you have stayed through. This shows how passionate in terms of looking and learning to grow your business. As we close, remember to find your passion, to know your market, get your finances in order, prepare for the sacrifices that you need to make. We were told there are some couple of sacrifices that we will do. Prepare to find also a mentor, but plan ahead and be flexible to accommodate feedback. From myself, this is Ann Ichungwa, who has been your moderator. And from all the collaborative partners, that is the BPI and TBN, would like to say thank you for joining in, and I wish you a lovely day. Thank you so much, and let's connect. You could leave as you say hi. Thank you so much. Drop a message on the chat or unmute yourself, but thank you for joining in.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, everyone.